For USCFootball.com, I'm Keely Eure here with Dan Weber for instant analysis of USC's fifth player run practice of the summer. We saw the return of Jack Sears. He was out here with all three quarterbacks, so that was good to see him back out here. It was one of the lesser attended PRPs and a little bit disorganized just because we think their conditioning played a part in that. But Dan, what were your overall thoughts from today?
Yeah, I mean, I think they, when we got here, the security guard who was talking about, by the time he got here, he said they were still doing gassers from the 6 a.m. workout. And then they go in to do weightlifting. And by the time, I think, we saw Jack Sears answered the question about where's Jack Sears. He was the first guy out. Yeah. Okay. Number 3 was JT Daniels. Number 4 was Matt Fink. So you kind of get the sense that this is a quarterback-driven thing. But I think Ronnie Franklin arrived, like 8:17 or something. He was heading down the ramp into McKay, and he sees Cameron Smith, and he says, "Where is everybody? This guy's supposed to be out there." Cameron says, "Well, I've been yelling at him, but it's been hard to get him to come out." So I think they pushed him pretty hard in both the conditioning at 6 and the weightlifting at 7, and so they did have a little trouble getting out onto the field. And I think we only had 71 here at the maximum, and then 4 of the freshmen, had to take off early. Guys like Jordan Austin, who we saw the other night in a suit coming from his internship. I'm assuming that's where he was headed. Liam Jimmons was out of here after the weightlifting on his bike and that. So not quite as many here, for this practice. So, and it's, Friday, the end of the week, and a couple of really hard sessions apparently before they got out to the field. So we'll just let them, have this practice.
Mm-hmm. We both thought that Jack Sears had a good day, both on the field and as for playing wise and for leadership. I thought when it was some disorganized at times, he took over as a leader and tried to get guys organized and get the playoff. So I think having him return, having him come back, it was good to have his hat thrown back into the ring.
Yeah, the other night we thought with just 2 quarterbacks it moved well because you didn't have to alternate the third or the fourth guy if you count walk-on Holden Thomas. But Jack came out, hit his play sheet and all that. He was ready to go, and he just like. And the more you look at, we don't always get to see him up close because we're up at the top of Loker. But Matt Fink, Jack is a bigger, stronger, more kind of well-defined. He's growing into the role. So I thought it was interesting. They're all. I still think JT Daniels hit another. I think we were trying to compare the quarterbacks, and I think one of the numbers I had in mind was Matt Fink threw 1 interception, really, really good play by Jenny Harris on a deep ball, and JT Daniels threw 1 incompletion. So if you match up those numbers, again, JT Daniels just threw the ball really well, threw the ball deep, hits that quick stuff, where he really drives the ball. It's interesting. The quick stuff, he really drives it. And the deep stuff he throws with just so much touch and air under the ball. So, but he had a couple of touchdown passes, and again, another really good day.
Mm-hmm. Another guy who had a good day was Josh Imatorbhebhe, who we mentioned on Wednesday had a good day. So that's encouraging to see. So, a guy who we haven't really heard much in his time as a Trojan. It's good to see him kind of emerge at these PRPs.
Yeah, I think he's really asserting himself. I mean, he's, again, he's 6'2", 215, jumps out of the gym with that 44-inch vertical that he had, at Nike camp, and just haven't seen that on the field, and we're starting to see that. I think the good thing is we're starting to see it practice after practice, and he's a threat. I mean, he's got the size and the athleticism to, just be a real difficult cover for whoever tries to cover him. If you're, a linebacker picking him up, it's going to be hard to run and jump with him. If you're a typically sized corner, he's just not going to be big enough. So he's a mismatch, and I think he's definitely going to be factored in. He's factoring himself in here.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting to know. We kind of make we've been calling attention to the weight of certain guys. It seems like the either off-season conditioning or guys just growing into their bodies has really taken over this summer. Whereas some summers we don't see that as much. What are you seeing as far as guys' weight?
Yeah, I think we're seeing it both ways. We're seeing a Marlon Tuipulotu or Jay Tufele look kind of, really moving well, and maybe don't look, as maybe as thick as they were. I mean, they're still above 300 pounds, but just good weight. We're seeing a Daniel Imatorbhebhe who was out here again, not really doing all that much, but he looks leaner, interestingly, and I don't know. Again, I think we sometimes get a little bit of a different look from the top of Loker Stadium down into Howard Jones and Brian Kennedy Fields, but yeah, you can tell guys are changing their body. Brandon Peely, I think, doesn't quite look like, the 340-pounder that he was last year. But I think the thing you're noticing, I think for me, the conditioning and the running part of it, I think we're seeing, especially on defense, guys that can really, really run. Lots of guys that can run to the ball, rangy guys who can run to the football. So, but I think it's kind of noticeable with each kid you look at. Today, for example, Marquis Stepp, hadn't seen him up close, the running back out of Indianapolis, and his 230 pounds. He doesn't have a look of a kid coming out of high school with 230 pounds. He looks like, an NFL body. At 230, he's that's a very good-looking 230 pounds. It's really defined and put together really well.
Mm-hmm. I think we already know what to expect from Tyler Vaughns, so I think he does as well, because we don't see him do much during the PRPs as some of the other guys, but when he does do stuff, it leaves us pretty impressed. I think it's almost like he's turned another corner. He looks way more confident out there, almost resembling Deontay Burnett and how effortless he was.
Yeah, he's a bigger, quicker, faster Deontay, and he's starting to do all the kinds of things in terms of getting open and then, making this move or making that move. I think he's got more ability maybe to beat you deep or catch it and run by you after a couple of moves. But he did a couple of things today, and he makes them look easy, and he also makes them look like, wow, look at those moves. I think he looks. And it's interesting. You've got he and Michael Pittman are the two candidates to be the lead wide receiver, and they do things completely different. Michael is this just really hard charging, like power guy, and just gonna work his way down and bust his way down the field. And Tyler is sort of this gliding, just smooth as can be, making everything look easy. So it's kind of interesting how different the two kind of lead wide receivers are. And then you've got the guy that stayed last and stayed all when everybody else was gone. Amon-Ra St. Brown was down on the ground catching balls that are thrown at him from every different angle, catching a ton of footballs, lying on his back, catching them over his head, catching them from both sides. And his hands are so good. I mean, I don't see how you get him out of the picture for a guy who may have a chance to get that slot position.
Mm-hmm. There's only been 5 PRPs, but we're almost at the end of June. What themes are you taking away from this team, if anything?
Well, I think the one question you wanted answered was quarterback, okay, because that was the question coming out of spring. I think, Matt and Jack have both responded, I think, well. And then you had to see JT, and you all knew what you saw in high school, but is it transferable? And it looks more than transferable. So I think there's a much better feel about the quarterback position. We don't get to see much about the running backs. I mean, they'll put some running plays in, and Stephen Carr was out there observing, but they're not ready to kind of show you, and you're not going to get to see what kind of things you're going to see from the offensive line. And so they used to call them summer passing. It's still a little bit summer passing. I mean, Very often you didn't have all the linemen were here. They're here now, but they're working on their own. you do look at, when the offensive linemen are working out and there's 10, and that's not enough. And you're probably going to need more than that going into the season when everybody gets healthy and everybody's able to go. But, there are some issues there. The defensive linemen, you watch them work, there are a lot of athletes working there. And there are a lot of guys, same with the linebackers in the secondary. There are just a whole lot of, athletic people who look like they can play. And but you don't get to see that so much in the summer. It's obviously more geared to the offense. But solving the quarterback situation with Matt and Jack just looking like they're not playing with as much pressure, and they're just both have that feeling they're a little more in charge. And then with JT showing up and looking the way he's looking, from that would be the one takeaway that we would say.
Yeah.
If you solve that problem, then you work on the other stuff. But I think they've got a chance there that you didn't necessarily feel like they had coming out of spring.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for the 5th PRP of June. For Dan Weber, I'm Keely Eure. For more, check out uscfootball.com.